Last week I released this on my other channel Conspiracy Cats, in which I deconstructed the worst flat earth video I have ever seen, and it's doing quite well. So this week on Conspiracy Cats, to pay homage to it, I had planned to debunk the very worst flat earth top 10 video that I'd ever seen. However, as I was making that little section, it appeared to me that it was worth a video in its own right. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the worst flat earth top 10 that I have ever seen. Let's get into it, and I wonder how long it'll be before he says something wrong.
Number 10. Mercury should not be visible from Earth in the heliocentric system.
Wrong. Flat earthers say we shouldn't be able to see Mercury because Mercury lies between the Earth and the Sun. This means, so they say, that when we look towards Mercury we can't see it because the Sun is too bright. Now if you know what you're doing with a telescope, you can actually see it during the day, but if you don't know, try just to remember that less than 1 year ago, millions and millions of people watched it transit the Sun. But it's not really the daytime argument that he was concerned with, it's a nighttime argument. You see, some flat earthers think at night time we can only look in this direction, and therefore at night time we should never be able to see Mercury in the night sky. However, anybody that stops to think about this for more than 10 seconds will realise that just before sunrise or just after sunset are a fantastic time to look at Mercury. Number 9 next, my favourite of all of them, and I'll tell you why. Because if you listen to what he says, he states the problem, and then he gives the correct answer himself without needing any help whatsoever. So I'm left wondering why he even thinks this is a flat earth proof at all.
Number 9. A lot of land is bigger or smaller relative to other land, or has a completely different shape than on the maps you saw in your classroom as a child, or that you can see on Google Maps, because it's hard to map out a sphere on a flat map.
Well done. And yes, indeed it is difficult to take a sphere and map it on a 2D surface, which is why we use projections. And here's how they work, starting with the stereographic projection. So let's take a toy globe and then mark a point at, let's say, the North Pole and place it on a piece of paper. We're then going to draw an imaginary line from the North Pole through the sphere until it hits the paper. Now the two black dots we're left with represent a point on that globe and the point on the paper where we draw it. Now if we carried on doing this through every single point in the globe, we'd end up with something that looks a little bit like this. Now you won't see many school kids using these in the classroom, but they are favoured for people who work around the poles due to the fact that on a stereographic projection the meridians radiate in straight lines from them. The Mercator map that the flat earther showed us is an example of a cylindrical projection, only in this point we draw our lines from the centre of the globe, and then we unfold the cylinder to show our map. And of course, even the famous flat earth map, the azimuthal map, is a projection of a sphere onto a 2D surface itself. Now all these types of projections do some things very well and very poorly, unlike this top 10, which just does everything poorly.
Number 8. Even though it's possible to make water curve with technology, we don't have an example of this in nature.
Well, how about this statically charged blade of grass clearly curving a stream of water? A fantastic demonstration showing that water, just like anything else, will conform to the forces applied upon it.
Number 7. There has never been proof that the Earth is moving or spinning.
Well, that's a great point. Totally incorrect, but 10 out of 10 for confidence. Now, I do suppose that we famously have the example where a bunch of flat earthers admitted on a Netflix documentary that they got their hands on a ring laser gyroscope and managed to demonstrate this.
15 degree per hour drift.
Yeah, that's right, the 15 degree per hour drift that we must observe if the Earth is rotating once every 24 hours. Other than that, we've got the Coriolis effect, which you might not believe in, but the Germans sure did. Meet the Paris gun, the largest artillery gun in World War I. In fact, its range was so long that when using it, the Germans had to account for the rotation of the Earth just to hit the target. And of course, we've already talked about the Eötvös effect on this channel, named after this guy, Mr. Eötvös. Essentially, as a consequence of the Earth's rotation, something travelling west should weigh more than something travelling east, and that's exactly what we see. Of course, we've got two celestial poles, around which the stars appear to move in opposite directions, and if you stood on the equator, you see star trails just like this. Again, direct evidence for a spinning Earth. And of course we've got Foucault's pendulum, which appears to drift. Now if the Earth was rotating, that drift is due to the rotation of the Earth, and we should be able to use maths to use that rotation of the Earth to predict exactly what our latitude on the Earth is. Funnily enough, that works. And here's why it works. Take the Earth, take a pendulum at the North Pole and watch the Earth spin. Now as long as that pendulum has got a specially adapted pivot, as the Earth spins 24 hours beneath it, the pendulum will appear to rotate 360 degrees. Take another pendulum, stick it at the equator, and because the Earth isn't spinning beneath the pendulum, we won't see any rotation at all. Then, understand, as the Earth is a sphere, the amount of rotation will change as you go from the equator to the poles, and then use a number of different pendulums at a number of different latitudes and a bit of maths to verify that the Earth is a sphere. And I didn't even bother mentioning satellites. Next.
Number 6. There's emergency plane landings that disagree with the sphere Earth. Watch the video linked in the description to learn more about it.
Right, well, you know what? I did click on that link and it took me to this guy. The guy who thinks he can explain tides on a flat earth by shaking a desk.
If I shake this, you can see how the vibration causes the water to,
Yeah, I know. So you'll just have to forgive me if it doesn't look like I want to spend my money on his book on emergency landings. Next.
Number 5. If you zoom in on the sunset, you will see the full sun again. Therefore, it's our limited human perspective that makes it disappear, because it's moving away from us.
Well, all I can say about that is that if you zoom in on the sun and you can still see the full sun, then it's not started setting yet and you need to buy a solar filter. Better still, try zooming in on the sun when it looks like this. Or even better, try zooming back in on the sun once it's gone dark. Nobody's ever brought the sun back with a zoom at night time.
Number 4. The so-called planets don't look like we were taught as kids in actuality. Not only are they not spheres, but they are not even round.
Well, firstly, those so-called planets you're showing us aren't planets, they're stars, and they are twinkling like that because when light enters the atmosphere, differences in temperature in the atmosphere and density cause refraction to happen. Secondly, get yourself a decent telescope, learn how to use it, and in no time at all, you'll be able to take pictures like this. So while we wait for you to do that, next point.
Number 3. As I explained in this video, planes don't fly upside down, nor do they dip their nose down because they're not flying around a spherical object.
Well, first of all, as with all the other points, you're not providing any evidence for that belief whatsoever, but the fact is planes do follow the curvature of the Earth, and they do that by flying at a set altitude. Now, to maintain that altitude, the plane is having to make constant minor adjustments all of the time. I want you to think of the analogy of you driving down a motorway that's seemingly straight. You would never let your hands go off the steering wheel. Your hands are on that steering wheel and you are making constant minor adjustments all the time to be driving straight. And you never feel those adjustments. And it's the same in a plane. Next point.
Number 2. Amateur footage shows a flat Earth, and even the videos filmed with a fisheye lens don't show a departure from Earth. It stays at eye level.
So here it does sound like he's saying that even with a fisheye lens, the Earth looks flat from a very high altitude, which is an odd thing to say, but not as odd as the fact that he clearly didn't watch the whole video that he's using a clip of here, because if he had have done, he'd have seen this, and then not said what he just said. Yeah, just see what happens when the balloon itself bursts. Yeah, some fantastically high IQ flat Earth research went into that one. Anyway, saving the best till last. Number 1.
Number 1. It's common sense.
And with that, I think it's time for me to give up. You will see me very soon back on the Conspiracy Cats channel, and the next video I see on the Baldy Cats channel will be something a little different. Take care.